The following program is a PBS Wisconsin original production.
Extraordinary events of a Wisconsin judge's arrest and suspension after allegedly attempting to help a man escape ICE ups the ante in the national immigration debate. Good evening. I'm Zach Schultz, filling in for Frederica Freiberg. Tonight on Here and Now, we continue our congressional updates this week with Representative Mark Pocan. And on the arrest of a sitting judge, the law and the politics can't be untangled, says Professor Howard Schwaber. Then, how education and resources aim to decrease gun violence in Milwaukee. It's Here and Now for May 2nd.
Funding for Here and Now is provided by the Focus Fund for Journalism and Friends of PBS Wisconsin.
If there's one constant with Donald Trump as president, it's that he creates a fire hose of news. And just as it appears one topic will dominate the national conversation, another issue pops up. Joining us now to talk about the Democratic response to the first 100 days of Trump's second term in office is Congressman Mark Pocan. Thanks for your time today.
Yeah, thanks, Zach. I appreciate having me.
So from DOGE to immigration to tariffs, have Democrats really found an issue to focus on when it comes to responding to Trump?
Well, I mean, I think we all should be focused on the economy, right? That was the number one issue for Donald Trump when he got elected. Half the people in exit polls said they voted on the economy. And it's also the number one issue hurting Donald Trump right now, whether it be the indiscriminate use of tariffs that's, blowing the stock market up and causing prices to continue to rise. His inability to lower costs. He promised to do it day one. It's been just the opposite in most areas. And, the rule of law and the chaos and the flooding the zone of so much is really hard. And it's kind of exhausting for people who are calling into the office trying to keep up with what's going on.
Well, so many of Trump's actions have come through executive orders, and many of those are now being fought over in court. And even on the topic of tariffs, some of them are announced and then rolled back. So do you think the general public actually understands what's happened versus what is just being talked about?
One of the things Donald Trump does well for himself, and that's usually how he does things for himself, is he floods the zone with a lot of different messages on any given issue. So you may hear what you want to hear, but, just take tariffs. I would defy anyone to tell me exactly where we're at on tariffs right now, because I don't know if I could tell you. They're on, they're off, some are on, some are off, a bunch are on, penguins are paying tariffs, and I'm not sure where we're at today, right? I think tomatoes just got tariffs in Mexico. So you really can't keep up with it. But the problem is, we're hearing from a lot of business people, their costs are going up because of tariffs, and things that aren't even tariffed are going up because this is a backdoor way for people to raise other costs. So at the end of the day, people are going to start paying more and more for things as Donald Trump throws these tariffs out without a real plan. And, targeted tariffs can be done well. If China is dumping cheap steel in the United States, we should absolutely respond with targeted tariffs. It's a very effective tool. But if you use a screwdriver to pound a nail in, it's not as effective. You can't use the same tool for everything, and that's what Donald Trump is doing. And at the end of the day, it's just costing people in Wisconsin and across the country more money out of their pockets, which is the opposite of what he promised.
We had your colleague, Republican Congressman Tom Tiffany, on last week, and he said tariffs are a negotiation tactic that will ultimately lead to lower tariffs globally. He said, quote, "You would hope over the next couple of months that with these active negotiations going on, that we're going to see some good things happen." What would you make of his assessment?
I think he's going to Minnesota and getting some medical marijuana or something, because I'm not sure that is an answer that anyone else honestly believes, including other Republican members of Congress I talked to. They're concerned about tariffs. I just had a company from in our area. I'm not going to say the name of the company, but they sell a lot to China. It's a higher medical device, let's just say. And because of that, with the tariffs right now, their leading market, they're going to have a much harder time of selling to that market. And most of their stuff, 70% here, is sourced in the United States, 48% just in Wisconsin. So if you start stopping those sales because of the response tariffs and the indiscriminate use the way the president's doing, they're feeling a real impact. And I hear that from manufacturer after manufacturer in the area. So it's not just that consumers are paying more, it's that companies are going to start feeling this. And we've even heard of some building projects starting to be canceled because of increased costs on tariff goods like some of the lumber that has been coming from both Canada and Mexico, and aluminum costs. So right now, there is not a plan, right? I think when Donald Trump answered the question in the debate about healthcare, they said, "You have a plan?" He said he had a concept of a plan. Everything seems to be a concept of a plan, not a plan. At some point, we really need plans.
8 years ago, it was Paul Ryan leading the House during Trump's first 2 years, and Republicans were largely focused on passing tax cuts and really seemed to ignore most of Trump's other agenda. A lot of those Republicans have been replaced in Congress with Trump loyalists. So what, from your perspective, what is the difference between then and now when it comes to the Republican majority in Congress?
Well, let me clarify one thing. The holy grail for the Republicans is still this tax cut for the wealthiest. That's what they're trying to get done by Memorial Day. I don't think they'll get it done by then. But the $1.5 trillion they're trying to steal from the middle class and those who aspire to be in the middle class through things like health care and long-term care through Medicaid, food assistance for kids, the #1 program that keeps kids out of poverty, a 45% cut to federal funding for education. All of that is to pay off this tax cut that originally was estimated at $4.5 trillion to extend it. Now, the Joint Committee on Taxation said, no, it's $5.5 trillion. And that's all money literally stolen from working class people to go to Elon Musk and Donald Trump and people who can afford to go to Mar-a-Lago. So even though the faces may have changed, the Holy Grail has not. But when you flood the zone and make people think that, we're going to talk about Greenland or Canada becoming the 51st state, things that are never going to happen, then you're not talking about the money that's being stolen out of your wallets in order to give Elon Musk a tax cut. And that's why I think it's really important that we remember there is no difference in their agenda. It is always about their donors and the wealthiest in this country, even more so now that you've got Donald Trump in office and Elon Musk, an unelected billionaire, turning on and off federal funds, turning off funds for programs that middle-class people rely on. So I really just want to keep the focus on that.
You've been part of a trend of Democratic members of Congress holding town halls in Republican districts. And part of this is to call out Republicans for not holding their own public forums. But what are you hearing from people? Are they just local Democrats coming to talk to a Democrat, or are they other constituents?
This is the ultimate common sense test, right? It doesn't pass the smell test. If you say you're doing something good for the American people, but instead of doing town halls to share that information, you'd want to go on the rooftop, right, with a megaphone and scream it if you're doing something good. You're hiding in your basement and not doing town halls. And Republican leadership has told Republican members not to do town halls. Well, I smell that, and that smells pretty bad. What they're doing, again, is stealing money from us to do this tax cut. So I'm going to make sure that people in Wisconsin aren't getting ripped off. So I've done several town halls in Derek Van Orden's district. He's never done an open public town hall in 2.5 years. So people want to be heard. I did one last week in La Crosse, and 350 plus people showed up. They want to talk about those cuts to Medicaid and long-term care. Don't forget, that's 1.3 million people in Wisconsin. 55% of seniors in nursing homes get help from Medicaid. 1 out of 3 kids in Wisconsin gets their health insurance from Medicaid. So, that's why they're hiding in their basements, because they don't want to talk about what they're actually doing. And just the opposite needs to happen. People need to be heard. That's why the turnout was so big in that April election. People just want to be heard. And that's why we're doing the town halls, to make sure people can be heard.
All right. Congressman Mark Pocan, thanks for your time today.
Yeah, thank you.
The Wisconsin Supreme Court this week announced they were temporarily suspending Milwaukee County Judge Hannah Dugan, quote, in order to uphold the public's confidence in the courts of this state. Dugan was arrested and charged in federal court with obstructing federal immigration officials in their efforts to arrest an illegal immigrant following an appearance in her courtroom. Reactions to these events have remained political. Democratic U.S. Senator Tammy Baldwin said, quote, the president's administration arresting a sitting judge is a gravely serious and drastic move. While details of this exact case remain minimal, this action fits into the deeply concerning patterns of this president's lawless behavior in undermining courts and Congress's checks on his power. While Republican Assembly Speaker Robin Vos said, quote, these are serious charges, and it's important to remember no one is above the law. We are reviewing the situation, and the charges result in a conviction. We will act. Judge Dugan's decision to hide a dangerous illegal immigrant was irresponsible and put public safety at risk. Joining us now is UW-Madison Professor Emeritus Howard Schweber. Thanks for your time.
Well, thanks for having me.
So what is your opinion of the case put forward by the federal government? Did they have grounds to make an arrest here?
Well, we have to keep in mind that the only facts we have to go on are those contained in the complaint, right? And there's a reason we don't take complaints at face value. That's why we have trials. So Based only on those facts and assuming everything that is alleged in the complaint is true, yeah, they've got a pretty strong case. The ICE agents were in the public areas of the courthouse where law enforcement is permitted by both law and tradition to make arrests. It appears the judge very much went out of her way to help this guy evade arrest. It was not a matter of simply like pointing to a door. There was much more to it than that, according to the allegations. So if these facts bear out and if she is convicted on the basis of the complaint as it stands, I would say that the case against her is pretty strong. But at that point, I think there'd be no doubt that the state Supreme Court, as well as the state legislature, would take action to remove her from the bench.
Now, her case will play out in federal court, but what's the impact in other courtrooms? Is there any doubt the Trump administration was trying to send a message to all judges everywhere in these actions?
No, there's no doubt about that at all. It's worth remembering that in his first term, Trump also had a judge in Massachusetts arrested. It's worth also pointing out that the decision by the state Supreme Court to suspend Judge Dugan was 7-0, was unanimous. It's temporary and it's a suspension with pay. So we shouldn't overstate where we are at in the specifics of the case. But the political environment is exactly what you just raised. The Trump administration has been going after and trying to intimidate federal judges from the beginning with threats of impeachment and threats to shut down courthouses. I don't think it's a coincidence that this week the Trump administration announced an executive order targeting state and local officials who interfere with deportation efforts. And the manner of the arrest was really egregious. Handcuffs and photographs and publicity, the perp walk element of the whole thing. That was very clearly an aesthetic intended to send a message that's of a threat to judges everywhere, state and local judges everywhere. Don't get in our way. It won't end well for you.
Some law enforcement officials, like here in Dane County, specifically avoid asking questions around immigration status because they've said they don't want potential witnesses or victims to feel intimidated or have concerns about showing up at courtrooms. What will this mean in terms of justice in a lot of other cases that have nothing to do with this particular issue?
Well, that's the policy side of this. And it's absolutely, again, you've raised exactly the right concern. It doesn't work to simply exclude a category of people and say, if you participate in our court system in any way, you may be subject to arrest. That's going to make them go underground, and that's going to make it harder for the police and for prosecutors in criminal cases and in civil cases, though. Cases of, for example, domestic abuse, which is one of the allegations that's involved in this case. It just gets very much harder for the rule of law to be maintained or people to be protected. So on policy grounds, there's a really good reason why in the past law enforcement has been very hesitant to operate inside of court houses and especially courtrooms. Again, I have to come back to two key points here. One, if every single one of the facts alleged is exactly as the federal government says it is, this is a strong case, and this judge acted at least recklessly. And two, the unanimous opinion by the state Supreme Court, I think, shows that court is very, very concerned not to see this become a disruption of the court system as a whole, not to see these kind of conflicts spreading across the state. But the background politics of intimidation of state and local officials and of judges in particular, I think is in everyone's mind, and rightly so.
Now, we spoke with one of the 9 chief judges in Wisconsin, and they said they're waiting for the director of state courts or the chief of chiefs to speak out. But we've heard nothing so far other than this one statement by the Wisconsin Supreme Court. And is the silence pretty loud in that situation, or do they have an obligation to speak out publicly or give guidance to judges in this situation?
Well, I don't know about an obligation. Right. So the big question is, this gets rather technical. The case involved an administrative warrant. Administrative warrants, unlike warrants signed by judges, do not permit law enforcement to enter into private spaces without permission. There's a kind of background understanding that courtrooms are treated as private spaces, but that the public areas of courthouses are not. And that's an established understanding. That's not brand new. I think it'll be useful for the chief judge to come up with a clear set of guidelines to judges around the state. But certainly part of the problem is it has to be a concern of pushback from the federal government and from federal authorities if the feds don't like the rules that Wisconsin comes up with. So there may be negotiations going on behind the scenes to try and get that worked out. We've seen one Wisconsin judge already threaten to effectively shut down her courtroom in the absence of guidance, that's another thing that could spread, and that would be a problem. So I expect that a statement would be forthcoming, and I expect that it will have some detailed rules and policies. And I think the one thing that's very clear, that the state Supreme Court has made very clear, is once those policies are in place, they will be enforced.
All right. Professor Schraber, thanks for your time today.
Thank you.
City leaders in Milwaukee have new ammunition in their efforts to lower gun violence. A Milwaukee mom who is a gun owner is one of many people taking advantage of the free resources from the city and a gun store. Here and Now reporter Merv Seymour shows us how education is being used as a weapon to lower violence from guns. A word of warning, this story contains sounds of loud gunfire.
Today, one of our officers was shot in the line of duty.
On the front line to protect people from gun violence and from the scene of a recent shooting.
The suspect, an unidentified male, sustained fatal gunshots.
Milwaukee's top cop and mayor have a message for the city about its problems with gun violence.
Using a firearm to bring violence into our community. Absolutely unacceptable.
According to ShotSpotter, the detection system Milwaukee police uses to track when gunshots are fired in the city, over 11,000 rang out in Milwaukee neighborhoods in 2024. The amount of violent and deadly shootings is slightly down, but the numbers are too high, says Chief Norman.
I come from a very close-knitted family.
Meet Antonia Perry.
My faith is very high in the Lord. I hear him talk to me.
A single mom raising two boys, Antonia is all about family. She lives in what she describes as a pretty nice community, but
it's very triggering.
A closer look reveals subtle signs that living here can be tough.
We hear gunshots every night.
Some nights, ShotSpotter lights up as gunshots echo through the neighborhood.
Oh, they're over there on 39th. That sound like Sherman. They might be in the alley across the street. We can hear where it's coming from. It puts me in a dark place to hear all that shooting.
A dark place because Antonia knows about gun violence. She and one of her sons are survivors of reckless gun violence.
Just from hearing the shots, I've thought I've been shot again.
A longtime gun owner with a concealed carry license, Antonia keeps her weapons safely stored and locked away from her kids.
He broke into my house and took the gun.
So she thought.
And that's when he went in the alley shooting it with his cousin.
2 weeks before this interview, her then 14-year-old son leaves a shelter meant to give parents and kids a break from each other during difficult times. He comes to this alley behind their home and fires the gun. It's the second time in 2 years that he's taken her weapon.
They emptied the gun. It had about 11 shots. Nobody was hurt, thank God.
The two boys videotaped the entire thing.
On the video, you see both of them shooting the gun. My worst fear was actually burying him, having to bury him. Because he could have killed himself, he could have hurt somebody else.
Antonia's fears didn't end there.
I couldn't find my firearm. I checked him, it wasn't on his body, but he wouldn't tell me where it was. But then he still proceeded to go up to the school. I couldn't have him go to the school until I knew I had my firearm. They checked the premises and they didn't find it.
Grieving, desperate, and torn, in the spirit of tough love, Antonia makes a gut-wrenching decision.
Took him to the police station, and I showed them the video, and they arrested him. I felt horrible, I'm the mom, this is my baby, this is my son, and I'm turning him into the police.
Emotionally broken, she turns to her faith.
I let one of the pastors at the church know my story, and he got me connected with a guy named Quinn.
Quinn Taylor works for the City of Milwaukee's Office of Community Safety and Wellness. He's also a member of Evolve Church.
So Narcan is for individuals that might be suffering from overdose.
From what's called the Community Resource Table, Quinn explains how resources on this table help connect the community with city resources. The city offers gun safety help for families who live in Milwaukee neighborhoods, coping with the most gun violence and the fewest prevention resources.
Prolific Arms, Theron speaking. Yes, absolutely. We should be able to do that for you.
In one of its new programs, the city partners with Prolific Arms.
We have a bunch of different weapons.
A gun store in nearby West Allis that does a lot more than sell guns.
We're educators that just happen to sell guns.
Owners Theron Rogers and Eddie Silas are unique gun store owners.
Out of 6,000 gun stores in the United States, there's only 15 being black owned.
And in Wisconsin,
as we know of, it's only 2. The mission is to educate as many people as possible. The city of Milwaukee said, hey, we want to do something about gun violence. The solution is education and also resources. People think these bullets just go out of space. No, they do not, right? They go up and come down with enough force to kill somebody.
According to the Milwaukee Police Department, almost 60% of guns stolen throughout the city are taken from one place, your vehicle. Criminals are constantly weaving through crowded public parking lots at bars, restaurants, sporting events, hospitals, city buildings, pretty much anywhere you have your vehicle and your weapon unattended. City officials are fighting back, and they say you can too, with education and one simple tool.
These right here are lock boxes sponsored by the City of Milwaukee Office of Wellness and Safety.
In its partnership, the city provides free gun storage lock cases, and Prolific Arms gives them out and installs them for anyone who takes their concealed carry firearms safety class at Evolve Church.
We've been able to train 150 members of the community in firearm education since the start of the year.
And it sounds like you did have a safe and have it locked away.
We sat in as the team at Prolific Arms set aim towards helping Antonia Perry.
What do you think you could have done better?
It's a free 1-hour firearms safety assessment, available to any gun owner who wants it.
This here is Snap Safe Lockbox. You get 2 keys. We're going to be able to give out 750 of these, so you're going to be one of the recipients of that.
The house call goes over things like how many weapons are in the home, how and where is it stored, how many kids live in the house, and what's the plan if you have to reach for your weapon.
You know someone's in my house. What do you do? Do you have a designated meeting place in case of an emergency?
If you are possessing a firearm in your house, it shouldn't be a secret to those who's living there.
But it's vitally important that not only us, our youth, get access to the education piece.
I also learned to educate the kids and not hide it from them. Let them know that it is there and how dangerous it is if something was to happen, if they playing around with the gun.
We care about this because this is our community. We grew up here, our family's here, the people that we love, our friends. We've taken a lot of losses.
Back at Evolve Church, steps from its community table inside their teen room.
If you're relying on a safety for your safety, that's a bad decision. You need to be your safety.
Antonia Perry, her 2 boys, and almost 50 inner-city gun owners gather for this Saturday firearm safety course.
We teach everything from safe handling, proper storage.
If this weapon unintentionally goes off, that round is going to go through the floor.
For a small fee and 4 hours of time, some receive their concealed carry permit. Others, like Antonia, refresh themselves while educating their kids about gun safety.
You have mothers, you have fathers, you have even kids. You have everything that represents a community in this training.
Practicing proper firearm storage.
Participants also take part in what's called the Prolific Pledge.
The Prolific Pledge is us getting the community to commit to the goal of safe firearm ownership and education.
11 miles from her house, Antonia continues her education.
So go ahead and slowly squeeze the trigger.
With firearm safety expert Eddie Silas at her side, she prepares to do something she's never done as a 17-year-long gun owner: fire her weapon.
Your feet can either be shoulder length apart, slight bend on your knees.
I've never had that chance to do that because I'm always in the house being the mother. working, I'm going to school, I'm cooking, I'm cleaning, I'm taking care of the kids.
Before she pulls the trigger, Eddie provides a 20-minute hands-on refresher on firing weapons.
So now you're going to grab the magazine, insert it, finger off the trigger. You want to choke up a little bit more if you can. Everything looks good. I'm ready to get out on the range.
Working out of stall 4, the sound and power of gunfire almost instantly startles Antonia.
You see her shaking. A lot of people in our community are walking around with PTSD and they don't know it. She almost turned around and walked out of there.
For me, it felt like it was going through my body. And I don't know if it's because I've already been shot before.
At times, with shell casings flying everywhere, Eddie has to stop and calm Antonia's nerves.
All right, don't, see, I see you shaking. Put it down. Take a deep breath.
Eventually, Antonia does collect her poise.
An intruder can be in your house right now. Your kids can be screaming.
It took a minute to like get my stance and tune out the shooting. But once my coach gave me some pointers, I was able to, feel more comfortable with shooting the gun.
It's brave. She's absolutely brave.
Within a few days of partnering with the city of Milwaukee, owners of a gun store, and her church, Antonia Perry becomes a more educated gun owner and mom.
We need more mothers just like her. She probably saved his life and she don't even know it.
I believe that all of this is for a reason, and we're going to be all right. We're going to be all right.
Reporting from Milwaukee, I'm Murph Seymour for Here Now.
For more on this and other issues facing Wisconsin, visit our website at pbswisconsin.org and then click on the News tab. That is our program for tonight. I'm Zach Schultz. Have a great weekend.
Funding for Here and Now is provided by the Focus Fund for Journalism and Friends of PBS Wisconsin.